Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about issue number 7, X-Men from the Ashes, written by Jed MacKay. But before we dive into the story, I want to ask you a favor. If you enjoy this video, please leave a like and a comment to help the channel grow. So with that said, this issue opens several months before the start of this comic line following the fall of X during the event known as the Iron Knight. And when we get there, we see Cyclops knocking back a cold beer as the sun starts to set. And as he wiped his face, a voice from behind him stated that he always thought Cyclops had a plan, so because of that, the mysterious person had to ask what were his steps towards victory. This causes Cyclops to respond by saying he almost forgotten what victory looked like, because everything he worked for, bled for, and even died for over the last couple of years is now gone. In fact, Scott even went as far as to state that even Jean is no longer by his side, due to her taking off to space in her solo Phoenix comic run. But anyway, on the next page, the identity of the person talking to Cyclops is revealed to be Magneto. And during their exchange, Scott asked Max if he saw any victories lying around, because he must have missed it. So with that said, on the next page, we fast forward to the current day with Cyclops asking Max what he thinks about Piper Cobb's statements in the previous issue. Because according to the child in question, she was the reason why the Wild Sentinel attacked during the Iron Knight. Now with this recap out the way, we then see Beast entering into the room in order to perform a mutant test on Piper. Now this test required only a single strain of hair from her head, which he would use to test for the X gene. So with the hair plucked and handed over, Beast states that they are particularly well equipped at the factory to detect mutants, because they have A, the last remaining Cerebro, and B, the new base was a former Sentinel factory, which means it specializes in detecting mutants. So as Beast started his examination, we then jumped back to the Iron Knight and continued the conversation between the two statesmen. And during the talk, Max brought up how his somber attitude was something Max would have expected from Wolverine. Because Max states that their people are in crisis and they look to him, for Scott was chosen as a boy anointed for leadership. Now Logan is effectively immortal, so he has the luxury of time to wallow in his feelings, but Scott does not, which is a part of his strength. Because unlike Wolverine, Scott has always moved forward, because he has a mission and an all-too finite lifespan within which to accomplish it. Now despite how true Max's statement was, Cyclops was not willing to accept it, because according to him, he didn't ask to be made into a teenage warlord, and he didn't ask to have that be the tenor of his entire life. But regardless of what Scott asked for, it is what it is. Now this leads Max to reply by saying that he never asked to be sent to the camps and to be hunted for what he was, whether a Jew or a mutant. Then Max went on to say, but the world doesn't wait for them to ask before it inflicts horrors upon them, so all they can do is spite it by surviving or dying. So with Max's point made clear, Cyclops had no choice but to admit defeat and offer him a beer. And as they drank, Max mentioned that the world needs the X-Men now more than ever, which Cyclops agreed with, because he stated that he has been staring at his future base of operations for the last few weeks. Following their debate, we then jump back to the factory in the current day with Temper taking Piper to get something to eat. Once they got their food, Psylocke informed Temper that her actions were ill-considered because, mutant or not, the girl was welcome in their base, but considering the way she went about getting her there, it put them all in danger. To this, Temper went on to say that the girl could be a mutant, and as a mutant, she would need their help, which is what the X-Men are created to do. But that is when Psylocke corrected her by saying, yes, they are made to help, but Temper didn't bring it up to the team. Instead, she took it to Magic and did as she wished. So in conclusion, Psylocke told Temper that the X-Men is a team, and it would be good if she started to act like she was on it. Following that, we jump back to the Iron Knight, with Scott telling Max that this lodge has been in his family for decades, so there were a lot of good memories there, and now, even that's gone, since they built a Sentinel factory right in front of it. So with that done, even in a place that he loved, he is confronted with cruel truths about the world and their place in it. Now following that, Max took the beer can and crushed it and then uncrushed it and stated that that factory was shut down and would never reopen again and build another Sentinel while both of them were alive and still able to fight. And then he went on to say that he should not look at it as a constant insult, but instead look at it as an enemy skull set upon a stake as a warning. But that was when Cyclops popped his bubble by saying that the factory was one of the factories that the Avengers took out. Following that statement, Max went in for another beer as the ground started to shake violently under their feet, so with no time to waste, the two ran off the porch, just to see a gigantic Wild Sentinel heading towards the neighboring town. And if there were one thing I could say is important about wild Sentinels, it would be that they are unpredictable. But before we can see this battle play out, we jump back to the current day with Temper telling Piper about wild Sentinels. And during their conversation, Temper states that wild Sentinels are an autonomous weapon system and its core can build itself a chassis from surrounding materials. So after the Avengers decommissioned their factory in their fight against Orcus, there must have been a stray cord left over. Now, speaking of the core and the wild Sentinels, on the next page, we see Scott and Max questioning why the wild Sentinel isn't targeting them but instead the town. To which Scott assumes that the town may have mutants in it and doesn't know about it. But regardless of the reason, the people of that town needed help, and Cyclops wasn't going to sit back and do nothing. So both he and Max charged headfirst into battle. And as they flew overhead, Max asked Cyclops what was his plan, to which Cyclops stated that wild Sentinels are more adaptable than baseline models, so he estimated that he could hit it 3 times before it adapted countermeasures to his optic blast. But despite the blast counts available to him, Cyclops was still confident that he could pull it off if he got an opening to work. Now, with the clock ticking, the bystanders were confused about why the Sentinels were attacking them, but before things could escalate more, Cyclops and Max showed up and got into position. Almost instantly, Max started to run decoy as he tossed huge chunks of metal at it in order to catch its attention. Because his opening move was a spike through his chest. And with a great deal of power, Max stated that there is no place in this world for it any longer, for it was a relic, a remnant, a monument to hatred and to fear. And with a massive burst of energy, Max forced the Sentinel to outstretch its arms, as Cyclops blasted a gigantic beam right through it. And just like that, the giant machine of death froze in its tracks and immediately shut down. So with the battle over, Cyclops told Max that they should start talking about rosters and asked if he still had his weird island base. But before Max could answer, something strange started to happen to him as he started to lose control of his powers. And on the next page, we see Max's powers going out of control all around him, which forces Cyclops to knock him out with an optic blast. So with that going down, we then jump back to the current day with Max talking about RLDs, which was short for Resurrection-Linked Degenerative Sickness, the price they had to pay for cheating death, the flaw in the diamond that was Krakoan resurrection. And to make it worse, Max stated that he was only brought back twice and his power was almost gone, so what would happen to those who came back several times like Quentin? Now with that shocking revelation out there, we then get the results from Piper's DNA test, and according to Beast's findings, Piper is 100% human. So with the results out there, Temper and Magic return the girl home as if nothing happened. But in a twist, as the girl lay down to sleep, we seen a small flicker of something not human happening to her hands as she repeated how she was 100% Homo sapien. And on the last page, we see Beast walking alone at night through the city streets arguing on the phone to Quentin about not allowing him to use his Quinjet parts for his Marauder. But before they could finish their fight, some unknown person proceeded to kidnap him. So with that said, this issue of X-Men comes to an end. But anyway, down in the comment section below, let me know your thoughts about this issue and what predictions you could have moving forward. So with that established, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to leave a like and a comment if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.